We're excited. This is going to be episode 1 of our Creativity in the Valley podcast. Today I have Brian Walters with me. Brian, thank you for coming by. So before we start talking about Brian and why he's here and everything like that, I want to ask Brian kind of about Ottawa Valley Studios, why we have it now, what the whole aspect of Ottawa Valley Studios is, and just kind of go into detail about why we're doing this now. What's the deal? So Brian, what's the deal with Ottawa Valley Studios?
Ottawa Valley Studios was a brilliant idea.
Yes.
It was. So the Ottawa Valley Studios formed when we were looking for a shared studio space. Yep. There was a couple of photographers in the area. We're all running full-time photography businesses out of our basements. And we all realized very quickly that there wasn't enough room, space.
Yeah.
So we started looking.
We did.
For spaces.
Yes.
For months.
For months. I think we started looking in January, right?
Yep.
When did we get together for our workshop? It was January when we started talking about the workshop, right?
Yep.
So January we started looking. When did we finally find a place?
Oh, I don't even remember when it was, but it was a long time.
I do, because it was 6 months of my life spent trying to find. So June is when we actually finally found a place.
Yeah, and it was torn apart.
Yes.
Totally gutted, but we knew immediately that this was the place as soon as we walked in. The bones were here, it was good to go, and now this is the perfect place.
It is, absolutely.
So
sorry.
No, I was going to say everyone's happy, you're happy, I'm happy, John's happy.
John's behind the camera there recording us right now.
Doing a great job.
He's happy.
And we love the space, and all the clients love the space. There's so much more room. There's a kitchen here.
There's a kitchen, yeah.
Nice bathroom, so it's a really nice place. And
it is a really nice place.
Everyone enjoys it. So.
Yep, and obviously you can go visit ottawavalleystudios.com. You get a chance to kind of see what the rates are for renting the space, and you get use of all of the equipment that's here, all the backdrops. Everything that we have here is available to not only photographers, but I mean anybody that wants a space to use for. If you want to teach cooking classes, heck, you could even do them here, kind of deal, right? So, I mean, obviously it's a great little spot that we have. It's like 1,100 square feet, I think, eh? Yeah, about that, and it's a good place. So it's yourself, me, and John that are using it right now. But again, we obviously don't mind other people if they want to come and check it out and use the space, because it's awesome. All right, cool. So now we're going to get into the fun part of today. So what I'm going to be talking to you about, Brian, is kind of creativity. We're going to go into kind of the aspects of why being a photographer can be such a creative outlet, and we kind of want to figure out what it is that makes you tick in those kind of lines, right? So are you ready for my top 5 list with a bonus question here?
I'm as ready as I'm ever.
We're gonna go into a little bit. Okay. Yeah. So my number 1 question is, do you strive to be unique in all your creative endeavors?
Do I strive to be unique? Yeah. Yeah. You have to.
Okay. Kind of explain though. Like expand
on
expand on that.
So if you're not going to be creative or unique with photography, you are going to get lumped in with everybody who just pulls their camera out and does snaps.
Yeah.
So with today's technology, with all the great cameras they have that are really cheap, and mobile phones with great cameras on them, like all kinds of people are taking great snaps.
Yeah. Well, your iPhone 6 that's a...
For sure. And some of the best photos I've ever taken are on my phone, right? So, but it's much more difficult, close to impossible to get really creative with those kind of cameras, because you need to be able to control different aspects, like your ISO and your shutter speed and your f-stop. So if you can't control those things, it's really hard to get creative.
Yep.
But you can just take great photos.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when it comes to clients that are paying you to make like amazing photographs, they're expecting amazing photographs. So you have to be outside the box, and you have to be able to provide things that other people can't.
Yeah.
Right. So
with that, I'm just going to cut to one of the wedding shots you did here. You took this in Jamaica, I believe, right? Tell me a little bit about this shot.
This shot here was taken at Rachel and Joel's wedding in Ocho Rios, Jamaica 2 years ago. And it's one of my favorite images for a couple different reasons. The moon was shot the night before from my hotel room, where I just saw it and saw it was so awesome. And awesome moons are so hard to capture. And we were up on the top floor. Everything was perfect. The clouds were perfect. So I took the moon. I never knew what I was going to do with it until during the day we took this exact same shot in the daytime, and then at night I wanted to recreate the shot we did during the day at night with some nice backlighting from my off-camera flash.
And I'm just going to interrupt. That's one of the nice things, Brian, that I find that as a wedding photographer you do a really good job of is you know, if you go and look at a lot of your evening images with your couples, you do a lot of good backlighting with your off-camera flash, right? And this I'm assuming you're using a trigger for, right?
Yes.
Is how you're doing it. And you know, again, I look at that as a very creative side of it is you know, yeah, people can do that, but your vision, your eye of it, you saw it, you kind of knew what you wanted to do with it, right? And that's a really good image. So, you know, that's a good one. But I did forget to ask, you know, one question before I started on this is I didn't ask about you. I didn't ask about Brian. I didn't say like, hey, what's Brian all about, right? So let's do a little bit of that. Let's talk about you for a bit, Brian. So, you know,
sure.
Tell me about you. It's like a job interview now. You're like, no, tell me a little bit about you. You know, how you ended up kind of getting where you are and how you get started and all that kind of stuff, you know?
All right. Well, it all started with little baby Brian. No, really. Yeah, that's me in one photo. That's
that is
for
you.
Sure.
That is you. Can you see that? Can you see that photo? We have an image of your family, right?
Yeah. So that's myself, my wife Nicole, my son Noah, and my other son Jude, who are now 7 and 4.
Yeah.
And that pretty much sums me up. Yeah, that's why I do everything I do, and that's how I actually got into photography. I think that's how most people get into photography.
Yeah.
When Noah was just little, he every time I tried to take photos of him, they were all blurry and mangled, and I was so upset because such great moments were ruined by blurry photos.
By your lack of understanding.
By my lack of understanding, but at the time I thought it was my lack of equipment, right? So the first thing I did was go and buy a professional DSLR camera, and it turned out that didn't make any difference.
Nope.
So spent like $500 on an entry-level camera, and quickly realized that it didn't matter. Mm-hmm. So I took a course on how to use it, and by the time I was finished that course, I understood so much more, to the point where I just wanted to learn more. Yeah. And it just exploded from there. Like, I just couldn't get enough information, and that's all I concentrated on was learning how to take better photos. Yeah. And then at that point I started looking at photographs that I loved and was trying to figure out how they did it. Like, how did they do that?
That's always it's always an interesting thing, because, you know, I think as photographers or just people that are visually stimulating, is when you see an image, you are always trying, in the back of your head, trying to figure out how did they take that image, right? That's right. I know when I'm looking at a photo, I'm always looking at lighting. You know, how did they light that photo? How many setups did they use? You know, was it studio lighting? Was it like an off-camera flash? Like all these kind of things, right? So it's very much
now at this point where you are, you could probably nail down exactly what kind of and where the lights are, what the settings were on the camera. Yeah. Like, so that brings me to the point of the art versus science, right? So as growing up as a kid, I was very much into art. I was never really good at it, but I loved painting and I loved drawing. I loved music. I was into all that art stuff. I was always like pretty good, but I was surrounded by phenomenal artists. Yeah. So it's hard to just go further, like with my painting and drawing, when I saw people that were like gifted. Yeah. They were just gifted. I knew I was no amount of practice gets you as good as somebody who has a natural gift. So I still did it for fun, and I just loved art, and I love science. Like I'm pretty much a geek. So I love my art and I love my science, and that's really where photography shines for me, because it doesn't matter how creative or artistic you are, if you do not understand how your camera works, you're done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you could have a vision, but if you can't figure out how to put it on paper, then it's useless, right? If you can't figure out, you know, how to set up your camera and how to set up the lights and just make things happen. So I think that's the advantage that I had with being able to pick everything up so quickly, is that I quickly learned and fully understood how cameras work. Like I needed to know the math and the science behind.
There, and you know, it is a funny thing, because when you think about your camera, I mean, there's actually a lot of math behind taking a picture, right?
Sure.
There is actual equations, you know, that you could write down to tell yourself how to do everything. It's
I'm not that
possible,
hardcore,
but you know,
I just like understand like lighting and the sensor and shutter speed, and you just have to understand that. And every time I got a new camera, I would always read the manual, and if I didn't know something, then I would look it up. So, you know, knowing what every single thing inside your camera and every setting is, like, helps. You know, and most people, it's just too much trouble, right? They just want to pull out the camera, shoot, and take pretty pictures.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't work like that. You got to understand the science to be able to control your creative, you know, outlet. So.
And your family obviously fully supports you in this this endeavor, I'm assuming, right?
It's the only way it works. For sure.
Absolutely.
Maybe not my kids so much, because like when the camera comes out, they hide. But once in a while, I get lucky, and my wife, of course, like such a huge supporter that.
And that does, I think that's a key.
It is
key to being successful in a creative kind of endeavor, is the people around you have to support that vision and that what you kind of want to do, right?
It's a slow start. You know, like you've done it too. You know, you don't just start out rocking out beautiful images. Like it takes time.
Absolutely.
So.
Okay, well, now I'm going to go on to my second creative question is, who or what experience have kind of inspired your work in the line of photography?
Well, like a lot of that's my kids too. Right? Like different places, different things, seeing them, interacting.
So your kids is really what's kind of pushed you to do what you do then, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, that's fair enough. I'm kind of the same way, you know. Kids were a big thing. I think when family stuff started happening, that you really kind of go back and be like, you want to do.
Well, when you look at your children, and that's when I realized very quickly that window light was by far the best light, was because my kids, they would always be looking out the window and stuff, and I would look at them from a certain angle and be like, that is perfect. Like that's, you know, that's inspiring. Like I'm gonna go grab my camera, and then when I come back, of course, they're playing with Legos somewhere else, but then
Legos, right?
But then I'll get them to look out the window again and get that shot, and that's kind of the lighting that window light will give you.
Absolutely.
You know,
I mean, you go back to this family picture, and now I know that that's a studio. I know that's a strobe light that's being used, but I mean, a lot of people might not know that you could very well do that in front of a window, right?
Window light.
It's absolutely.
And I tell even my clients, like if they want nice pictures of their kids or their baby, like put them right near the window. If you can get your children to look out the window at something, and shoot them from the side, they always look really great. And
it is a great image. It's a great image of your family. So I'm going to go on to my next one is, when was the first time you remember realizing that you were a creative person?
I never really thought about it as a kid, or even in high school, or even like when I was in the music. Actually, you know what? Probably started when I was in the music industry. Where it's very much like photography, being a record producer or recording engineer. It's very, very close to being a photographer, right? You're relying on other people to finish your work, right? Like the band or whoever's playing the instruments are kind of like the clients you're photographing, so you need their help.
Instead of pictures, though, you're capturing the audio, right? So it's...
That's right. But it's the same thing. You've got to get people to relax and loosen up. And so back then, I understood that you could get creative with audio. And that's very much what I liked about that whole industry. And then when it came into photography, I just found that the images that I liked but was unable to produce early on were always like really creative ones.
Yeah.
Things that needed additional lighting or
all that kind of stuff.
or different textures.
So then I'm going to go into one that I find as a photographer is kind of it's a key. It's your creative block, right? So how do you deal with creative blocks? And we're going to talk about this image while you kind of explain what you do to kind of get out of that.
I just keep my eyes open. Like, it doesn't matter. See, I've never really been in a place, and I hear about it all the time mostly from writers.
Yeah.
But once in a while, there'll be an article about photographers, about the creative block. And I don't even read them because I've really never been in a spot where I'm like, I'm at a loss.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing because this image we have up right now, this is a local vendor that we've all had the pleasure of working with,
yes,
right?
Kim Chenard from Crazy Beautiful Dresses and Decor.
Yep. And this is a creative shoot. So, kind of explain how this image came about, because the chandelier is an awesome addition to this shot.
Yes.
And just kind of go into this image and how it kind of came about.
All right. So the image was taken from a series of great images that I did with Kim at her studio, and it was an Alice in Wonderland theme shoot. She had a beautiful dress and these amazing shoes, and we were supposed to do an event together. It didn't fall through, so because of she had put so much time and work into it, and I had put so much time and work into it, that I just went to her bridal studio, and we just went from there. So the first thing you notice when you walk in her bridal shop is this amazing chandelier that she has hanging above 3 mirrors. And I didn't know what or how I was going to use the chandelier because it's up really, really high. And about halfway through the shoot, we came back downstairs, and I just kept looking at the chandelier, and I knew I had to do something with it. So we got out a ladder, and I was right at the very top of the ladder shooting through because I knew that I needed to shoot through it. And she just, she just rocked it.
Yeah, she did.
You know what I mean?
She did rock it. And so if other people are interested in seeing these images, are they on your website? Can they take a look at these more?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so
these are in my portfolio.
They're in the portfolio?
Under portraits for this one.
So make sure you take a moment to go check out that session with Kim, because it is quite the session that you did with her, and it's awesome.
Well, and you just got to look for the things around you, right? Like, that's how you don't get blocked. Like, you see something you like, use it. You know. And
then that kind of leads into the next question: is there anything special that you do to get into a creative mindset?
Yeah, I just feel like it's almost always there.
It's almost always there.
Like, when you go outside, are you not, like, when you look at the sky or you look at the way light hits something, or
For me, it's light. I look at light.
Me too.
So,
everything's about light for me too.
For me, absolutely. And I think that's what I definitely do. So you're saying is light is kind of what gets that mindset kind of going, right? And
for sure it does.
Because I'm going to bring up an image here that you did of a wedding, I think just this past summer, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes.
Of course. We have Star Wars, the newest episode coming out soon anyway, so how timely is this?
Yes.
Go into how this kind of came about, because again, it's a fun image.
Well, I'm a Star Wars fan.
Yes.
I'm not hardcore like these people.
Yes.
Where their house, their toaster is a Vader toaster, and like, they are very Star Wars oriented. This image was taken not with this in mind at all. They wanted to get a Star Wars one where they were kind of holding hands and looking out. We were cut so short on time, we didn't get that shot where I could like include lightsabers and like a whole theme. So as I was culling through the images, this one was shot from really far away. I knew I wanted this big sweeping landscape photo because it has the bridge and the gazebo and the little lake. This was taken at the Orchard View Weddings and Conference Center in Ottawa. And as I was culling through, I was like, oh, this could work.
This is the one,
This is the one that could work. So
And
Yeah.
it is always fun. It is always fun to do that, because when you are going through those images and knowing what your client wanted, right? And you knew these two people were like huge Star Wars fan. You ran out of time, but you went through that image, you saw it, and right away that creativity, it sparked in the head. You're like, I know what I can do now. Like it's
Yes.
you know.
And I don't know how to explain that. I just knew that I could do something with it.
Yeah.
So
It just works, and I bet you the client was like,
loved it.
yeah, I bet
Like
you they absolutely loved it.
Yeah, they both loved it.
Yeah,
and I love it too. It's nice. I love doing composite work. So.
Yeah, well, comping is it's composition. Doing a composite is amazing. It's time consuming, and that's something that I think later on we'll kind of do some things about. But
well, and it's difficult,
it
you know.
is.
And now with where I am, I prefer difficulty,
Yeah.
and that's why I prefer wedding photography and boudoir photography over any other photography, because
Yeah.
I find them to be the hardest.
Weddings, absolutely, right? Because weddings, it's all time limit, right? Weddings it's all dependent on how reactive you are to the situations that are happening around you. Weddings are
The light's always
definitely,
changing.
yeah.
Then there's the people aspect,
Yeah.
right? You have to keep people happy and
Yeah.
moving throughout the day, and there's always things going wrong, and you're always putting out fires, and I like that.
Yeah, it does make it
So-
enjoyable. Absolutely. So now I'm going to go on to my last kind of bonus question for today. We're going to bring up what you consider right now kind of your favorite creation at this time of your career, right? Is this one
My
amazing
favorite.
image? It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I love this.
And this one, you're gonna I want you to tell me about this one. Go into
All right.
not necessarily how it came about, but how you did the image.
So the whole thing that sparked me photographing elite athlete Mark Prudhomme, I've known Mark. I was in Afghanistan with Mark way back in 2006, 2007. We're both Royals from the Royal Canadian Regiment. I was just a little bit further ahead of my career than him, just because I'd been in a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But we all knew Mark. He was an elite swimmer. He was like crazy fit, super nice guy. So everybody knew who Mark was. And once I got out of the military, I never really heard too much about Mark. Like he always had his finger in something.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my friends posted something with Mark about him going to the Military World Games, which is a really big deal. It's like the
Okay.
Olympics for all the military
military.
across the world. It's a huge deal. And the media did not cover it well enough. So I had a little tiny lull in my schedule.
In the summer?
Yeah. Actually, no, there was no lull. But I needed to make space. He was heading to Korea in 3 days.
Yeah.
By the time I got a hold of him, and I'm like, okay, Mark, I have this really great idea. I want to get some like fitness shots of you with your bike, because he was going as a triathlete with swimming, and with the bike, we didn't have enough time to get any kind of pool shots.
Yeah.
So we got this shot. I also got him in his dress uniform. I got him in his combats. I got him, shirt off for the ladies, and full combat gear with face paint. So I wanted to show, an elite athlete Canadian soldier.
Yep.
The only shot that I'm missing is a shot of him and his family,
Yeah.
right? Because, he's got, he's a dad.
Yeah.
So that's the only shot that was missing to show the whole picture.
Yep.
So when I came to this photo, I just wanted to show the grit.
Yeah.
And because him and I, we're obviously he's very patriotic, right? He's got a Canadian flag tattooed on his chest.
Yep.
I have one on my arm. I just wanted to make it very dark, very serious, very, patriotic with the reds and
the grittiness really kind of adds to the photo too, right? Like I find you got the two tones happening. You have it shaded out on the one side, and then you have very patriotic red and white on the right hand side. But there's something about that image that really shows what he's kind of been through. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah, no, it's
does it
you know
make
what I
sense?
mean. And not many people can look at you like that.
Yeah.
Right. Like that look in his eye is what makes the photo. It has nothing to do with me,
No.
other than the fact that I pulled that look out of him,
him.
right? Which is half the battle as a photographer
Yes,
too, right?
absolutely.
You need to be
Absolutely.
able to pull it's expression, right? And if you you need to be able to pull expression. So
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to pull that expression out of them, and
again,
I just love everything about it.
That's another great shot from the ones that we're looking at here today. Yeah. So now we're going to go into more about the photography side of stuff. So my first thing, how long have you been a photographer?
Like 4 years.
4 years?
Yeah.
So like 2011-ish kind of thing?
Yeah. I was like taking and making photographs before then. Yeah. But like before I was like really like serious and charging people money for photographs. So.
And again, we kind of already answered this question about how you got started. It was really kind of the kids and capturing their moments and everything like that. And the next one is, what's in your bag right now?
All right. Well, I shoot Nikon cameras.
Yes, as well as I.
I use...
Unlike our other friend, right?
You know what? I don't even care. No. If you shoot Nikon, Canon, Leica, or like it or doesn't
Sony.
Matter. Or Sony. Yeah, or iPhone 6. It doesn't matter.
I've
seen... But I myself shoot Nikon just because I have so much money invested.
Yeah.
I shoot with the D810. I have a backup D800. The lenses I use most are my 24-70, my 85 millimeter, my 50 millimeter.
Yeah. Now, if you could only have one of those lenses in your bag, what would be your must-have? Not your must-have lens that you want, but the one that's in your bag.
If I had to go out and shoot with just one lens, I would use the 50.
The 50?
Yeah, it has to be the 50.
Okay.
So.
And then, this is kind of again, it's really only photography related, but what do you feel is the most important post-processing technique?
The most important post-processing technique is paying attention to detail.
Paying attention to detail? Okay.
And I find not enough people do it. Have you ever, like, how many amazing, beautiful photographs have you seen? And like, one of the people in the photographs has like a big red zit, or razor burn, or a big dog hair on their arm,
or like the fluff on the shirt, right? Like
or the fluff on the shirt.
I know that when you're at a wedding, you always have your lint brush with you, and you're ready to get rid of that because it's
all about the detail, and that's the difference between, and that's really the difference between the pros and the amateurs. Yeah. It's a polished, finished product that should be able to be hung as a 30 by 40 on your wall.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
go big or go home.
Yeah, it's just, and it's subtractive, right? Like usually when I edit a photo, an edit isn't accounting for what it should have looked like in camera, like adjusting for color and exposure and cropping, like that's not even really editing. That's kind of fixing what you didn't get right in camera. Yeah. So the editing is taking out the little lints or the mosquitoes or the, stuff that's distractive to the eye. And the one question I get asked by a lot of photographers is like how do you get the eyes to like pop, or like how do you make the eyes look like that? And it's like, I don't do anything. Yeah. I erase everything else that your eye usually gets pulled to. When you look at a photograph that has lint and a bird and a stop sign in the back, your eye will go to the eye because it just does. Yeah. But then it wanders.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where if there's nowhere for it to wander to, it's, the impact is there. Yeah. So for me, the biggest thing for post-processing is detail.
Detail. That's a good answer.
Accentuating the good details and subtracting distractions.
Yes, absolutely. That's a good answer. And then this is another great one that I don't actually get asked very, very often, but which photographers have really influenced you and kind of influenced your thinking and maybe your style?
Well, the photographers that have taken the most amount of my money are Sue Bryce, who's amazing.
Yes,
I give her all my money.
And just if you ever watch any of Sue Bryce's stuff, just like the outfits she comes up with sometimes. I mean, she makes a lot of her own stuff, or her team makes a lot of their own stuff, right? I mean, you and I would both wish we could do that every day, but absolutely.
It's not even the fact that she makes her own stuff. It's she's an amazing photographer. Yeah. She's an amazing person. She does a lot of good. Yeah. And I try to do a lot of good as much as I can. It's mostly from her. Yeah. She's all about like flattering women and how to flatter women and pull those poses and get them to look at you in the way that they must to make a beautiful photograph.
So you got Sue Bryce.
Sue Bryce for portraits and more like my boudoir stuff. I just love everything she says and does. And for weddings, I really love Jasmine Starr and Susan Stripling.
Okay.
They, again, both of them take all my money too. Like that's where I get my education from. Like I go to school on Sue Bryce's website or Jasmine Starr's website because they're at the level now where they're selling educational videos and tutorials and they're always willing to share a lot of information too. So,
and that's, you know, that's a really good thing, sharing that information. That's a good part about building our community, especially as photographers, right? I mean, sharing that information and that passion with others so that they can learn is just, it's an amazing thing to do, right? So. Yeah,
and I try to do it the same way they do it. They share a lot of like important smaller stuff for free, you know, like which I do as well. But then like the bigger, more intensive stuff, then, you know, you know what I mean? Like you charge for your time.
You charge for the time. I mean,
and
you
your
can't do it
expertise.
for free, right?
Well, for sure. It took me years and thousands of dollars to learn all this stuff, so I'll pass it on.
And then nice. I want to end with, if you can, what would you say would be the funniest moment you ever had in a photo shoot?
The funniest things that ever come out of photo shoots. I'm gonna have to go with, well, there's two. One of them is, actually no, I won't even talk about that one.
Yeah, we do have to be kind of safe, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, so we'll be totally safe. So it's little babies projectile shitting all over their parents. And I actually have outtakes of photos where it's like whizzing across the screen and like splattering all over dad.
And that is
absolutely hilarious.
That is a good one, actually. Yeah. Projectile,
See, the peeing ones are fun and they're funny, but not like the poop ones. Those are always hilarious because I always warn them ahead of time. There is a 100% chance that your baby is going to pee, poop, or puke all over my stuff. Yeah. And it's fine. Yeah. I know they're going to, and all the stuff is washable because they're always very apologetic. Oh, I'm so sorry. So don't worry about it. It's going to happen. And then it does. And it's always best when it happens
to them.
Well, when I have the camera out too.
Well, yeah, that's true, right? You do want that. So before we end, we got one more image here. I just want to show because I like it. The lighting is absolutely fantastic. The couple looks, you know, they look very happy, you know. So why did you bring this image with you today?
Well, I love this image.
Yeah.
And although I do replace skies in dull background photographs from time to time, like if there's a photo worthy that I think is going to be printed pretty large, I'll just do it. This photo was taken at an engagement session, and it's actually a combination of two photographs. So the camera's on the tripod. I expose once for them. Yep. And if I expose for them, then the sky's blown out.
You're going to be completely blown out.
It's just white. So then the next photograph, I expose for the sky. Yep. And then, of course, they're black, and you can't see them. So you just add the two photographs together. Yep. And
so almost an HDR, but not quite an HDR, right?
It's like a fake HDR, you know.
More like an overlay, right?
More like an overlay, but using the sky that's there. If that wasn't an amazing sky that was there, I would have just taken that white background with the overexposed back and replaced it with one of the skies I had taken previously. Yep. But because the sky was awesome, I like to use the sky if it's there, and that was a great one. And
absolutely.
And they were just too easy to work with. They were like just so in love that I had to do very little. Yeah. So.
And it shows, right? You can really see it. You can see that it's not forced expressions in the face, right? You can feel that kind of thing. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming by. I enjoyed, having the chat with you, and I hope everybody enjoyed watching and kind of learning a little bit about Brian and his creative spark. So thanks again for coming by.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.